Hi, hello, and welcome back to Rock and Roleplay. This is a podcast style series where we talk about all things roleplay and roleplay related, primarily in World of Warcraft, but a lot of the topics that we cover will apply to other roleplay games like SWTOR or Guild Wars or Final Fantasy, or even tabletop roleplay as well. Some of them will apply to tabletop games as well. Some of them obviously won't. This episode is one of the ones that will not apply to any other games outside of World of Warcraft, because today we're talking about the possibly most used add-on for role players, and that is TotalRP, TRP. It's a little add-on which is a third-party piece of software that allows you to modify your game. And you can get those on Curse, you can get them on WoW Interface, a couple of other places. I'm going to link this particular one that we're talking about today down below in the description box if you don't already have it, or if you're thinking about checking out some roleplay. I have quite often come across people in dungeons from other realms that are not roleplay realms that have it anyway. And the way it works is basically that anyone that has the add-on can create a profile for their character, and they can also see the profile that anyone else has created for theirs. So basically, if you don't have it, you won't see any profiles for anyone. If you do have it, you'll be able to see everyone's profiles. Even if you don't have a profile of your own, you'll be able to see everyone else's, but it will allow you to have that profile for your own character as well. I'm not going to go into how we install add-ons or anything like that today. I think that's fairly straightforward in most cases. It will be linked below. And if you have any questions about the installation process, you can ask me in the comments and I will do my best to walk you through that. So for now, I think this is going to be plenty long enough just going through the add-on itself. Disclaimer, however, I'm not going to go through the extended version of TRP. I think I'm probably going to put that in a separate video so that this one doesn't get too long, and to give myself a bit of time to look over all those features myself yet, because I will hands up admit I don't use the extended version an awful lot, so I need to look into that a bit more before we talk about that one. This is just going to be about the actual basic add-on. Okay, so let's get into it. When you first install TRP, it's probably for you going to have a little pop-up button on your minimap like most add-ons do. I don't like buttons on my minimap, as we've talked about before. I have them all docked up here on the top of my screen, well, the ones that I need anyway. So TRP is this little purple one up here. I have a few buttons for TRP on my thing. This bar is called Bazooka. We talked about it in one of our past episodes about my must-have roleplay add-ons, and the reason that I must have Bazooka for roleplay is because it allows me to put my TRP button up here, but it also allows me to put up a button for languages. So I can click this, which is part of TRP. I can change my language from Orcish and Thalassian, or I can click this one here and I can change myself from in character and out of character up there. So having those buttons within easy clickable reach makes roleplay settings a lot more smooth and functional, because I'm not messing around trying to change languages and things. It's just right there. But this one is the actual add-on itself, so we're going to open that. This is what it looks like. You can use this red button down here to make it bigger, which when you're editing things does make it a bit handier. Obviously you don't want it to be too big when it's popping up, but this one makes it a bit easier to set your profile up in the first place. So this is your dashboard. You can see TotalRP 3 here. That's the version that we're on. On the bottom here you've got the changelog, so it's saying what's new. There's your changelog of all the changes they're missing. It's telling you the abouts, the credits, the versions, the thanks and things like that, and then more modules. Again, there's where it mentions the TRP extended and the QI nameplates, so you can have it come up on your nameplates as well. Those two modules work in partnership with TRP, and they've got links there to download them if you want to get those. And then up at the top here you've got this status section. This status section has your character status. Now, as you know, I just clicked it up here to out of character, so that's why mine's reading out of character. If you don't have that little button plugged in there, you have to come here. You have to open your TRP, come here and change it to out of character or in character, etc. Your role player status, I wouldn't put too much into this. I don't think too many people pay too much heed to it, but if you're a rookie, experienced or volunteer role player, you can select those as desired. Again, I wouldn't stress too much about it. And then you can see over here on the left, you've got your 4 categories that this is broken into. As a quick pointer, if you do want some tooltips, if you're brand new to Total Roleplay and you want some tooltips, this little eye down the bottom, if they don't automatically pop up when you log in, or if you accidentally cancel them, your tutorial mode is down there if you want to pop those up. Hopefully you won't need it after watching this video today. So we're going to do these in reverse order because this is the meat of the add-on here. So we're going to go in reverse order. We're going to go from the bottom up. We're going to talk about settings first. So in your settings, it has this drop down. You've got a lot of different modules here. I'm not going to go into a lot of these in huge detail because a lot of them are just not important. Honestly, when I first got TRP, I just loaded it up. I didn't even open settings. I just let it do whatever settings were the default, and you can do that, and works perfectly well. You don't need to be in settings unless you want to fine tune some certain things. So you can do your info text size here. So basically in your tooltip, these, as well as showing you character profiles, they'll basically give you a more in-depth tooltip that will tell you that character's title and things like that, and a bit of information about them that we'll look at later. But for now, this is where you go if you want to increase the size of that tooltip. I have mine currently set at 11, which I think is like a default one for the UI. UI sounds. I'll activate the sound when opening windows and switching tabs and stuff. So if you wanted to do those little UI sounds, or if you want to turn those off, you can click those off there. UI animations is the UI, it's fairly self-explanatory, guys. Default color picker. It says here, activate to always use the default color picker, useful if you're using a different color picking add-on. I'm not using a different color picking add-on, so I don't need to use that, but if you are, that's there. Increase the color contrast if you want to make it, modify the custom colors to make the text more readable. If it's too dark, that's where you click for that. Reset custom colors. If you have been messing around with the colors and you want to reset everything, you can do it there, and then you can change your date format from day, month, year, hour, minute, if you want to change that there. That's your general miscellaneous settings. In your chat settings, you've got disable customizations when out of character. I don't do that because I am a role player, so I always want to see everything. So when I'm out of character or not, I just put that up there. Naming method is quite important. So you can see keep original names, which is basically just your avatar name. You can use custom names if you want to give people custom names. First name and last name is what I've gone for, but you can, if you want, go for the short title like sir, ma'am, lady, lord, etc., and then their first name and their last name. So I might try that out, see how that goes. Remove realm from player names. I've ticked that because the only people that I'm seeing TRP names for are people that are generally on my realm, so I don't really need to know what realm they're from. It's not important information for my purposes. If they have a TRP profile and they're not from my realm, really doesn't make a difference because roleplay is roleplay regardless where you're from. Insert RP names on shift click. I have that clicked just because it's handy. Use custom colors for names. I have that clicked because it's very cool. I'll show you it later. Show player icons and player OOC indicator. I didn't know I didn't have those ticked, so I'm going to put those on as well, and I'll show you those if we can find someone to view them on. Customize companion names in NPC speeches. I have that turned on. I will show you what that is as well in a minute. Okay, so in emote detection here, this basically is going to let you use the emote text, the emote, the format that emotes come up in, that sort of like a brownie orange color. This is going to let you use that in other places. So for example, if you're doing a big long speech and in the middle of your speech you want your character to take a breath, but you don't want to have to do the first part, then /E take a breath, then do the second part of the speech. Quite often you'll find that role players will put the emoted part in the middle inside asterisks or the little arrow brackets. I'm not sure what their official name is, but you'll find they'll do the emoted part inside a little symbol in the middle, and then TRP will automatically detect that and it will turn that into emote text, which is very, very handy, very useful. I think it does the same with speech detection, but that's down a little bit. So no yelled emotes means it won't do that with yell. So if someone is in /Y and they're doing emote things, it's not going to turn that into an emote, which I keep because I generally don't like people yelling emotes. It feels weird. Use emote detection I have turned on. Obviously, if someone is doing that, they are putting part of their emote into their /say, then I want it to turn into emote color because it just makes life a little bit easier. Emote detection pattern, I have asterisks. You can have it say double asterisks, you can have it say those little pointy brackets, you can have it do both, or you can cancel it all together. So it's really up to you and what your community uses as a general rule. I think I'm on Argent Dawn EU, that generally is asterisks is what's used here. OOC detection is another cool one. Quite often you'll find, like, especially now that we can communicate to a degree with cross-faction players. If you're using your Elixir of Tongues, you can roleplay with people on Alliance. But if they're using, you can't obviously whisper them. You can't keep your out of character chat. If you do need to communicate with them, you can't whisper them. So that has to be done in say or in emote, unfortunately, as much as we do like to try to keep that stuff out of say. So TRP will detect that out of character information, and it will grey it out, which makes it, a little bit less obtrusive to the roleplay. So I have that turned on, and again, here we use you've got single brackets or double brackets. You can use whatever you want, or you can use both, and then you can choose what color you want it to show up. I have this grayed out grey, that's the default color, but if you want it to come up a different color, if you want the out of character bits to come up a different color, you can set it there. And again, for speech detection, it's just the same. Anything in speech marks that happens to be in the middle of an emote, like say you're emoting a fight and your character goes oof in the middle of it, and you don't want to stop and break the emote just for that one little oof, then you can do it in your emote and it'll turn it into speech so long as it recognizes the speech marks. Very, very useful one to have there. So that's in chat settings. And then use chat channels. Basically, I have it using all the chat channels. It uses these things in all chat channels. But if you only wanted to obviously use these in, say, an emote, a text emote and things, you can turn all the rest of these off because you won't need them. Okay, down to nameplates. Module inactive, no add-ons found. I'm not using nameplates because I have Plater and whatever else installed. But if you're using nameplates, this is where you change the settings, so visibility settings. I'm not going to go through all of these guys because there's no point really. If you're using a nameplate thing, if you have the QI mod to incorporate this into your nameplates, you can look here for all of these different settings. You can hide non-roleplay units, hide out of character units, etc, etc. You can customize these settings, show custom names. I have that turned on. If you have a custom name, I'm going to see it. If you have a custom color, I'm going to see it. If you have custom health bars, I'm going to see it. And if you have, I generally class color by default is my preference. Prefix titles, show full length titles, I have turned off because some people put ridiculously long titles in their thing. Show roleplay status indicator, I'm going to turn that on. And preferred OOC indicator, you can either have say OOC, you can have it do a red dot, so whichever you want. I'm going to go with OOC because I might miss a red dot quite quickly. You can have it show icons. Oh, go down here, and you can do your icon size, and then automatically fetch profiles and hide bars on Blizzard nameplates. Again, entirely up to you. You can play around with those depending on what nameplates add-on, if any, you're using. Some might be more relevant than others. Register settings. The register is like a database, basically a database of, once you've seen a character in game, TRP is going to keep a memory of that profile that you have seen, and that's going to be your register. So it's going to auto purge the directory after 10 days. You can set that however you want, month, 1 day, purge it, every day, every other day. Set that as often as you want. Then you've got your about settings, paragraph size text, header text. These are basically your text sizes of your description that we're going to see later. So if you want to increase the sizes of people's profiles, if you're having trouble reading smaller fonts, you can increase or decrease those font sizes here. Location settings is on the map. I will show you that in a minute. To do that, I will turn this on. I generally have it turned off because I'm generally like stealthing somewhere and I don't really want people on top of me when I'm out of character. I've had it before where I have like been on characters that don't have stealth, and I've squirreled myself away into the corner of the city. I'm facing the wall, I'm sitting down, I'm completely AFK doing something else on my other screen, and people have still walked up to me and tried to roleplay with me. So I generally now just stealth in a corner when I'm away from my keyboard, which is an awful lot. I'm always logged in and not on my keyboard, but so I generally have this off just to stop people trying to engage with me when I'm completely AFK, because they're just wasting their time, unfortunately, and I don't want to waste anyone's time, so I have that off normally. But you can turn it on. I'll show you that it is very useful to have turned on. I'll show you how it's useful in a moment. Disable when out of character, so you can have it only turn off when you're out of character. That would be great if I would remember to ever set myself to out of character, but if you've ever seen me running around the world, you know that I never set myself to out of character. I always forget. You can again disable when you're in war mode, another useful one. You can show players in different war modes, etc, etc. So you can turn all those on and off as you prefer. You can turn on a filter for mature profiles, which is, if you're a younger player, probably very, very wise. Absolutely recommend. This add-on is third-party software. It's not regulated by Blizzard. They do have a reporting feature, but people very often use it to be absolutely disgusting. So if you are a younger person or just do not want to see that, which is entirely fair, I suggest you filter the mature profiles and set your filter strength there, and you can edit your custom dictionary to even have it completely, remove words and things like that. Cursor interaction, right click to open profile if you want it instead of left click, etc. Disable when out of character. It's modifier key if you wish for that. Again, preferences for your own sake. Frame settings. The frame, let me show you the frame so that we know what we're talking about first. This is your frame here. When you click on a character, when you click on another character but you haven't opened their proper profile, you will see this little frame. So this is all that pops up on your screen. A huge big thing doesn't pop up on your screen unless you ask it to. You just get this little frame. And then you've got your at first glance bar is this little one that's sitting in front of it. And then once you get to writing your profile, which we're going to look at in a minute, you can add these little first glance sort of, snippets of information about your character. So here's where you edit that first glance bar. Frame to anchor, so I have it framed to stuck to my anchor to my frame. I have the bar locked, so it's stuck to that. You can reset position. I don't know where the reset position is because you can drag it around. Use TotalRP style positions, anchor point left, etc, etc. Map scan button. That's to do with that location setting that we turned on a moment ago. Scan anchor button on the map. Mine's on the bottom left. If you don't like it on the bottom left, or if you have something else in the bottom left, you can move that, but I'll show you in a second where it is and you can see. And hide when no scans are available. Probably wise. If you can't scan, you don't need to see the button. Show minimap button. You can turn that on or off as you desire. Target frame settings. You can display conditions. You can show them always. I like to see them always. If you only want to see people's profiles when you're in character, you can do that, or if you don't want to see them at all, you can disable it. Icon size again. Play character theme. That's an interesting one. These are basically settings for when you're targeting another character. So when you've targeted someone else and they have TRP, they have a roleplay profile for their character, this is your settings talking about what you're going to be able to see. So the first one is show the character page. Obviously I want to see the character page. You can have it play the theme if you have a theme added into your profile. If you don't want to play people's themes when you open up their profile, turn that off. You can see their relationship. You can have the option to ignore them. You see their companion profiles, their mount profiles. You can add notes about them. Again, I'm going to show you where all of these things are, but if you don't want any of these modules, you can just turn them off here. Okay? And you can see the report function there, obviously. Toolbar settings. Show toolbar on login. The icon size. Hide toolbar. Show your player status. Show your character status. Show your NPC speeches and your language. So all of that stuff is in your toolbar, which I have turned off because I have those things plugged in here. But there is a second little floating bar that has these buttons plugged into it normally. Again, I have it turned off. Will it turn on if I do that? Probably not, because I haven't logged in and probably have to reset it. But anyway, there's a second little floating bar. It looks very like this. It's just got a few wee buttons on it that has your language, this one here, and your out of character, in character thing, etc. Basically your function buttons, and you can have that turned on if you want to use it. I've plugged them all in here, so I don't need the extra screen floating around my screen. I recommend doing that if you do get this add-on. Just plug it in to something like that. Tooltips. So in your tooltips, you can use Only if the target has a profile. Obviously you only want to see a profile if the target has a profile. Hide when out of character if you want. Hide in combat if you want. If you don't want big character profiles popping up when you're in combat, you can hide them. Hide when in an instance, because you're obviously, well, I see you're obviously not going to be role playing. A lot of people do role play in instances, so you probably don't want to check that one. Show the custom colors that they've picked, and crop unreasonably long texts. Yeah, so basically what that will do is when your tooltip comes up, if someone has put in a whole big ream of currently information, it's going to crop that down and only show you a snippet, so you're going to have to open the whole profile to read the rest, which is handy though when you're running around or you're doing something and you hover over someone, a huge big tooltip box doesn't pop up, it crops it for you. Very useful one to have. Anchor frame is you can anchor it to, I have mine anchored to my game tooltip, so they all show up as one tooltip. I don't get multiple tooltips when I hover over another character. The anchor points, top right. I also clicked, like I said, hide the original tooltip. I don't want to see the original tooltip. I just need to see the TRP tooltip. And there's your font sizes. Again, if you want to make any of those fonts bigger or smaller, you can do that there. And you can change the colors if you don't want to see custom colors, or if someone doesn't have custom colors selected, you can change those colors that they come up as if something else is going to be easier for you to read. And you can show spacing. If someone has put spaces into their text, it'll show those, and hide immediately instead of fading if you want it to literally just show up and then fade out or vanish immediately. The next bit down is your character tooltip. Preferred OOC indicator. Again, do you want the OOC or do you want the dot to show up? You want to show icons, the title, full title, race, class, level. I have everything ticked because this is roleplay. I'm a role player. I like all of the information, so I wanted to show me absolutely everything. But you can again disable that as you desire if you want to. Doesn't really matter at all. And as we mentioned above, when it says it's going to crop, overly long tooltips. Down here at the bottom of this, your max currently information. So you have a little box, I'll show you later, that has currently information in it. You can cap that out wherever you want. You can decide how much you want it to show you. And again, max currently line breaks. If you're gonna let them show the spaces that the person has put into their profile, then you need to cap it at how many spaces you're actually going to show, because otherwise you'll have a huge big long tooltip as well. So it's up to you where you want to put those bars, and if you ever find tooltips are too long and it's showing too much information, you can come back here and shorten them down. Companion tooltip. Companion tooltips are basically, you can also write profiles for your companions, your pets, your hunter pets, your companion pets, whatever it is. You can write them a profile as well, and this is just talking about those profiles. So what information do you want to show about those? So again, I have all of the information ticked. The next one is menu settings. So this part is to do with a pop-up module. Apparently, as of 10.0, it's not working, and I honestly couldn't tell you what these do. I've never used menu settings. I'm not sure if it affects this or anything else. Header text separator. But either way, they've all been grayed out and you can't click them because as of the moment they're not working. If that changes down the line, I'm sure we'll hear about it. The next one here is your advanced settings. So reset advanced settings. If you change any of these and you mess something up and you just want to hit the reset button, there's where it is. NPC talk detection. One of the very cool things that you can do with TRP is NPC speeches. This means that if you're role playing and you want, perhaps say you're at a bar and you're talking to someone at the bar and you kind of want to have a barman come up and take your order or give you drinks or whatever, but neither of you are role playing a barman. Obviously the NPCs in game don't do that, but you think it would be kind of nice, a nice thematic touch for the scene that you're doing. What you can do is you can have an NPC do it. Now obviously you have to have a bit of imagination. There might not actually be an NPC model there, or there might be an NPC model there. It doesn't really matter, you can do this either way. So but what you can do is you can emote for that imaginary or existing NPC by using this little mark here. And this is where you change it if you want to use a different one. This is where you change it. This one here is just down by your Z. This one here is down by your Z key. If you want to use a different marker, you can. This is the one I think is the default. Most people use this one. So if you put that in, when you open your emote, your /E, then you put that in, and then you type the barkeep meanders down the bar and asks you what you'd like to drink. Then it will come up without your character name. It will just read in emote colours, the barkeep meanders down the bar and asks you what you'd like to drink, which can add a really nice touch to a scene. It can be very, very useful if you're doing campaigns or big events or anything like that, just to add that extra little touch. So NPC speeches are very, very useful. You can use it to emote for your companions, like such and such's dog curls up on the floor and goes to sleep. You can do that by using this. So you obviously want to have that turned on. Yeah, it's giving me a warning, so turn it off. You always want to have that turned on so you can see when other people are doing it. If you have it turned off, what you're going to see is their emote. Their emote is going to show that symbol and show their what was intended to be an NPC speech, but it will have their name on the front of it, and it's just going to look a little weird. So you probably want that turned on. It's a very, very cool thing that TRP does. One of the big selling points about it, honestly, for me. Languages, remember last language used. So basically it's gonna remember the last language you were using and keep that language as like your default language, almost, like sticky. And enable workaround against language reset. I have both of those enabled because I, again, forget to change my languages all the time. So I keep it on the last one that's used. To be fair, I'm generally always in Orcish. Very, very rarely do I switch out of Orcish. We run a lot of public events. There's absolutely very little need, means, or cause for me to be in an exclusive language. It's not conductive to the roleplay that we do. Okay, add-on communication. So use broadcast channel. And the broadcast channel is used by a lot of features. If you disable it, it's going to disable a whole load of features like the character position on the map, etc. Playing local sound, stashes, and signposts. We'll talk about stashes and signposts on a completely different day, because these videos are going to be, I think, a lot longer than I thought. I may have to split these into parts. But this basically allows you to do your searches and to find caches and signposts, which I'll talk about in a minute. Broadcast channel name, obviously this is the channel that it's going to go into, and keep broadcast channel last. Yeah, take that off. Add-on locale, I just keep that as English, which is mine. You can change it if you're speaking a different language or have a different language as your main language. You can change that. And communication settings is queue pool size data weight. I don't know what these do. I just leave them as they are. Not going to lie to you. Module status is the last one. This basically is just a little checklist of the different modules that you have and their current status. QI nameplates is obviously having an error because I don't have it. LVUI is obviously having an error because I no longer have it. Blizzard nameplates is having an error because I do have a different nameplates thing. Chat frames is okay. That first glance is okay. All these things are loading in fine, except the ones that I don't have installed. So that's just where you check the status of those, and if you want to do anything else with those there. So that's your settings. Let me show you that map function before we do anything else. So if you open up your map, I'm just going to make it a bit smaller so we can actually see it here. And we're going to close that because we don't need it. But you see down here in the bottom left, because I had mine on the bottom left, I've got a little map and it says scan for roleplay. So you can click scan for characters. If you have other things installed, if you have TRP extended installed, you can, I believe, also scan for stashes, which is people have made little stashes of items and things like that, or signposts. They've made these things and they've put them in game, so you can scan for those as well. But again, like I said, I still have more learning to do on that one before I bring that one to you guys. But you can do a little search and it loads it up, and it again shows you then where other people with the add-on are. So as you can see, 2 have popped up here. We've got 1 over there and we got 1 over there, and they both look very AFK, so I'm not going to bother them. But you can basically see on your map for wherever you are what role players are in that zone. If you have that unchecked, you cannot do this search, but it also means you cannot be searched. So if you're AFK, or you're like me, you're prone to frequently AFKing at the auction house or whatever, and you don't want people trying to find you and roleplay with you, you might want to turn it off. But if you are trying to find where roleplay is in a given city, it could be a useful way to find it. If you see a cluster of people in any one of these districts, you can oh well, obviously there's some roleplay going on there, I'm going to go see what's going on. So it can be a good way to find roleplay if you're doing that. I think, friends, this is already getting quite long, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the actual profile writing part of this into another video, because it's otherwise going to be a very, very long video. So I will call it there for now, and I will see you again next time with putting your own profile into this add-on now that you've got it set up and working for you. Until then, friends, have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!